Dearest Saint Nicholas, I must admit the tales of your exploits are indeed quite fantastical. Had our own Twilight Sparkle not found some of the Tomb of Legends, or have read it out to fillies and colts of Ponyville, we would not even know that you existed. Can you imagine? A nice peaceful holiday with your old love is now elevated by the promise of your arrival. Don't take this the wrong way, darling. I only mean there is a certain shift amongst the youth of these days. Now it seems gingerbread cookies are a necessity rather than a treat. Ugly old stockings must be hung on the fireplace that may have been magiced into a bouquet large enough to fit your unique shape. And all the carols I have heard, all sung about you, and not the unity of ponykind. Not to mention the little ones that were awake at all hours, anxiously watching our skies for your red sleigh and 8 reindeer. Although my Pegasi are inferior to reindeer is beyond me, but then again I'm not a jolly fat stallion who brings presents to the world. So what do I do now? I suppose the concept of being nice is rather useful. I do shudder at the thought of some pony watching us over all the hours of delicate how good or naughty we were. Don't you find that a bit unsettling? Illegal, perhaps? Yet, I am writing to this with the best quill and the present of my wish list. Visit the fillies that do care the same. I wouldn't be bothered if it hadn't been for the insistence. They are conceived, you see, and that will be deemed naughty if I don't make a ludicrous demands. They believe you have avoided Ponyville from a sheer shack of lack of letters over the past millennia or so. So here we are. I thought a number of trinkets and bulbs that I could ask for. But instead, I have a thought. If you're so mystical and powerful and seeing, perhaps your gifts are not limited to such conventional presents. Perhaps instead you might grant other wishes. It's simple, really, Saint Nicholas. All I wanted for hearth's warming, something you refer to Christmas, is a kiss. Now this kiss cannot be from just any pony. That would be ghastly. No, this kiss must come from a dear, dear friend of mine. Applejack, she is certain. G ne sais quoi, that I have yet to observe any other pony, mare or stallion, uncuteness that I am hopelessly drawn to. I see the same glint in her eye when we lock gazes, however. She is conflicted, you see. She hides her feelings from herself. She may pretend that she doesn't see me as anything other than a dear friend, but ladies such as myself obviously know better. But herein lies the problem. Dear Nicholas, being lady comes with certain expectations. It would be prudent to wait for Applejack to make a first move. Before you go judging me for holding Applejack to this unspoken expectation, you must understand that I have no qualms in making my feelings known, but just the first act of passion simply must come from Applejack. It would be emboldened here, you see. She needs to embrace her feelings, so that act of passion must simply come from it. She needs to embrace her feelings for me so I can return that kind of favor in kind, and quite doubt that will certainly surface. If I were to kiss her first, she might pull away in shock and struggle to come into terms with the proposition that the kiss comes in. I would very much like to skip the minutes, hours, days, or even weeks of her ceaseless contempt and insecurity. She'd probably feel pressured into returning the favor, to do so without actually exploring her innermost desires. The action would therefore be hollow, the utterly devastating for me. Even if she did accept my advances, I would be forever plagued with the morsel of doubt of our connection. I would spend many sleepless nights wondering if she truly cared for me, or if she was just humoring me. A terrible statement, don't you agree? The kiss doesn't have to be anything particularly special, though some degree of appropriate atmosphere would certainly be appreciated. Perhaps you could coordinate a moonlit walk of a gentle snowfall with the shining bug stammering stars in the snow while the real stars shine above us. Of course I know it is certainly not the season for such insects to thrive, but it is where your unique talents of magical comes into play. If so, that cumbersome for you, though be unbefitting for your height. I am sure other arrangements could be made. A private dinner at Sweet Apple Acres presents. That would be a clean pressed plaid tablecloth draped over the family dining table, with candies often to shine the room, to maintain the sensuous atmosphere. A warm leavening craft meal plated into perfection, while a bottle of wine chills in the ice bucket nearby. That seems to be far more achievable for you, don't you think? Now this may be asking for much, but in my appropriate scenario, if you can make sure Applejack is dressed for mines and nines for me, preferably the ensemble that I have especially made for her. I have given her several frocks and dresses over the years, but she seems reluctant to wearing them, outside of occasions that I have insisted upon. I did ponder if the dresses were the issue. Not all ponies feel comfortable in a gown, although I would never understood why. And the waistcoats and tunics I've gifted also were unworn. I am sure that I could never have the little pep talk from a certain mystical entity that would convince her otherwise. Yes, she would be doing it to humor me, but still, you can only get to experience your first kiss with a pony affections once. Perfection is unattainable, but high standards are not. And therefore you have it, my only Christmas wish. And you insisted on stocking every potential gift recipients. Then you undeniably know that I have been very, very good this year. With the kindest regards, Rarity. The morning of Hearthwarming Eve remaining mostly unchanged for Rarity, except for the new transition set forth by that book Twilight had found. Sweetie Belle, who had spent the night at the Carousel Boutique, found presents under the tree, an oversized stocking hung by the fireplace. Not long after, tearing at the wrapping paper that their parents finally arrived, Rarity gave them a knowing glance that they entered boutique grateful for their spare key had been an asset for this new holiday. Rarity poured herself and her family a cup of cocoa and enjoyed their company. She had received many trinkets and bulbs from her dead loved ones, but the gift she wanted most was predictably absent. As Rarity had sipped her cocoa, she couldn't help but feel a slight pain of sadness. Perhaps she hadn't been entirely honest with herself on how much she did or did not believe in Saint Nicholas. Even so, she put the idea out of her mind, as to not ruin her merriment. That evening came an unexpected knock at the bouquet door. Rarity was arranged to visitors that evening, that she was looking forward to a cozy night alone. Sweetie Belle was staying at the Rainbow Dashes with the other Crusaders, and her parents had gone home. Begrudgingly, she opened the door, to find a sharply dressed big Macintosh on her footstep. He wore a top hat adorned with holly leaves, and a hand-crotched screen scarf undoubtedly gifted to him earlier the day. He also wore a black suit and jacket that appeared to be pressed and perfect. Behind him were a glamorously decorated sleigh with holly ribbons and bells. "Big Mac, what's going on?" Rarity asked, though thoroughly confused. The stallion didn't audibly reply. He merely outstretched his hoof towards the sleigh. With a knowing smile, Rarity eyed at him suspiciously, but had donned the scarf and the fuzzy hat before venturing into the cold. Soon after, Big Mac harnessed himself to the sleigh and carried the confused unicorn into the night. He looked through her Ponyville streets, then divided from the main roads into lesser-used paths to wound through the orchard of Sweet Apple Acres. There didn't appear anything of the note along their way until they neared the end of their journey. Rarity held her breath in shock when she saw the glimpses of candlelight up ahead. The sleigh slowed into the stop in the quiet corner of the orchard that bears the trees. There in the snow were a series of candles, open in glass bowls, lighting the ground with a brilliant glow. She glanced up at the sight after a few moments of silence to see Applejack waiting in the middle of the clearing, standing in a plaid tablecloth draped over the ground. Applejack was wearing the ensemble that Rarity had gifted her more than a year ago. It was a white tunic smartly paired with golden waistcloth that has ancients and apple-shaped detailing. It was one of Rarity's favorite outfits that she ever designed for AJ. Applejack shifted her weight on her hooves awkwardly as Big Mac helped Rarity down from the sleigh. Rarity stood motionless in conqueror's stupor, and the sleigh was pulled away from the pair and out of sight. She saw Applejack adjusting her coat as if it were uncomfortable. The concept was impossible for anything Rarity had created. "What's all this?" Rarity asked, finally finding her voice. She walked towards Applejack and could see tiny beads of sweat from her brow. "This is, Applejack broke the gaze to the glance to the side, trying to think of some kind of plausible explanation. "I thought this was somewhat close to what you've been expected." Rarity paused in front of Applejack, her eyes glowing wide. "You're setting a romantic atmosphere," she said, bewildered. "Well, yes, I guess I am," Applejack replied, with a nervous chuckle to relieve the tension. "Any particular reason why?" Rarity prodded her hopes, though soaring high. "I mean, I figured it was kinda obvious," Applejack answered, adjusting her coat again. "But, I guess I'm going to be the one to—" There was a short silence between the mares when Applejack didn't finish her sentence. Rarity waited expectantly for her eyes glistening in the candlelight. "Ah, to hell with it," Applejack muttered, before she closed the distance between them and pressed her lips onto Rarity's. The kiss lingered, much to Rarity's delight, and it felt more magical than she had imagined. Applejack had a hoof to her cheek, and then when she finally pulled away, it remained there, cupping her face lovingly. Rarity couldn't do anything except melt in those emerald eyes, and with that crooked smile. "It was Apple Bloom, wasn't it? She gave you my letter," Rarity whispered, riddling out the clever plan from the Crusaders to make Rarity's wish come true. "Letter? What letter?" Applejack asked in honest confusion. "The one I wrote to you. You mean you haven't read it?" Rarity asked, equally confused. "I didn't get any letter, and I certainly didn't tell Apple Bloom any of this. I just figured, well, it's about time I made my intentions known. I can't keep this inside of me anymore, Rares. I love you." Rarity's heart beat so quickly, so thought she could burst. She smiled and threw her hooves on around Applejack, planting a kiss on the country earth pony would never be able to forget. It didn't matter the pony known the honesty of probably lying to her to preserve her magic. It was still a wish come true. "I love you too," Rarity finally replied. Applejack sighed in relief and returned to the embrace, Eva pulling the pony away as delicate lights around them flickered under the starlight. Rarity fell into happiness from which she had hoped would never recover. When they last parted and take some air, Rarity glanced upwards by chance, her eyes widened to nearly pop out of their head in bewilderment. There in the sky, she could have sworn she saw a sleigh and 8 reindeer disappearing from sight. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.